Welcome to the American Intelligence Media. I'm Douglas Gabriel, your host, and today I am with two of the smartest people I know, Michael McKibben and John Barnwell. You both are here today to discuss a very important topic, which is basically shaking everyone to their core. It's a topic that I've been working on for a couple years, trying to figure out whether we want to reject technology, accept it, what our place in it is, and this myth. And today the topic is the myth of artificial intelligence. I personally like to state my thesis to begin with so people know where I'm coming from. Artificial intelligence is machine intelligence. I don't want machine intelligence. I want human intelligence, okay? I want human thinking, not machine thinking. And I don't believe a machine will ever think. And I won't give you my opinions about the ultimate AI thing, but Michael McKibben, you're the person who helped us get into this dilemma by creating multiple inventions that created social networking and the ability to scale worldwide so that we can send this audio out in a few minutes to our friends throughout the whole world. And John Barnwell, I know you've been struggling with this because technology in this age is a way to basically take over people's real spiritual nature and basically kill it. So, we're a physical soul spirit. Some people think we don't have a spirit, and some people believe that really technology is destroying our spirit and destroying our soul. And you have a perspective that can really have a big historical framework for this. So I want to ask you, gentlemen, just throw out your opinions on this and let loose. And remember that people are terrified being told that the artificial intelligence is coming to be the God who's going to control them. And through the Internet of Things, everything is going to be controlled by this artificial intelligence. And we really don't have to worry. All we have to do is surrender ourselves to AI. What do you think about such thoughts?
There's nothing artificial about it. It's human beings who are taking their ideas and they're embodying them in some form of programming that has a logic to it, that has an input, a process, and an output, and therefore there's no step of this that's artificial. And so I guess every time I hear the word artificial, I think propaganda, because it's human beings making choices that create results. And as a result, there's nothing magical about that. And I think that the whole idea of AI and artificial intelligence plays to the technology part of this that's unseen, and that's programming, that's software. Those are things that people consider magic because they don't understand what's going on. I get that, and therefore there's a certain magical attribute that's given to this, and then as those affect people's lives, they see it as something to be avoided. And while I understand that, there's nothing magic here. This is programming. This is technology. We have choices as human beings. We can go to the dark side or we can use them for good. It's our set of choices, and it always will be. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's got to understand all this stuff, but this has been my point all along about where technology has gone with this hijacking of the software that we created called social networking. And that is a set of people sat down and they decided to hijack it and use it for negative results, for inhuman results. Those are a set of choices. There's nothing magic, there's nothing artificial about it, and it never will be artificial because it's always going to be programming. And it's always going to be human beings sitting down and writing code. Now, they can be pretty sophisticated, they can be pretty advanced, but if anybody's actually done programming, they know how hard it is to make a program work and work successfully. And once you've done that and debugged that code will do what you asked it to do. This idea that the code can be sitting there and just sort of grab ideas out of the sky and transmorgify them into something else is poppycock. That's not the way programming works. You cannot write code like that. And so therefore, it's useful propaganda for the people who want to want the world to think they don't have a choice here. They've got to submit to it. And that is poppycock, in my view. What do you think, John?
A slight variation on that, because I guess in machine language, in your nomenclature, there's what's called the subroutine.
Mm-hmm.
And what most people are mistakenly calling artificial intelligence is implementation of subroutines. But there's humans involved in creating those subroutines, and there's also humans involved in utilizing those subroutines. And what a lot of people don't realize is our adversaries in China have huge staffs of people working with these subroutines, with the Dragonfly program, for example. Mm-hmm. And they're tools. If you have a screwdriver sitting in your toolbox, it's not going to magically go fix your car for you. You have to go grab your tool and use it. And at this stage of development, and I'm not saying it's going to be impossible, but you have to understand the nature of intelligence and the nature of what a human being is, spirit, soul, and body, as St. Paul described it. Then when you get into some of these other realms, are there beings that inhabit technology? Elemental beings? Yes, there are. According to Christian occultism, you can delve very far into that, and you find that there are people out there involved in technology that are taking drugs like ayahuasca and having meetings, literally, with these beings they call the machine elves. Now, those beings do exist, and but they can't make those programs operate. There's no true incorporation. There's no true incarnation into the machine. There's a shadow image of beings behind the machine. See, and so that's when you get into these shadowy material side of the spiritual world, because you have the realm of Ahriman, which says that spirit is all an illusion, whereas Lucifer says the material world is all illusion. They're both wrong. And Christ is about inhabiting the middle and keeping both of those forces at bay, because the balance is to be found within pure human essence, pure human nature. See? So when we start allowing things to think in us, see, that's where this comes in. These types of beings can inhabit your thinking. They can't inhabit a computer program, but they can utilize you as a means to influence the realm of computer technology. Now, if somebody doesn't believe in all those beings, elemental beings and angels and all that, that's for them.
So
but you asked me what I thought.
Are you saying outside their choice they can be inhabited?
Well, yeah, unconsciously they can.
Okay, so you're saying these beings would take over people outside their choice to be...
Well, look at Eric Schmidt. You think he's fully human?
Well, yeah,
I don't.
I think he's made a set of choices that have...
He's made a set of choices. There you go. Okay.
Right.
No.
Well, I'd like to go back to what Michael mentioned to begin with. There's no magic here, even though those of us who don't understand it believe that there's gremlins in those little black boxes, or there's, there's elemental beings, or there's some, name it what you want, but there is some magic going on in there. Because why? I don't understand a lick of it. Aha, here's the problem. Yes, we turn on our iPhone, and what we forget is what Michael just said. Millions and millions of people have spent hundreds of millions of hours writing all the programs that have all been combined so that you can turn your iPhone on and it works. It isn't magic. It's human effort, as John also pointed out. It isn't that there's, at this moment, I'm going to go to that in a second, but there aren't machines writing these programs for machines, and that's the point. But now, we also don't understand electricity. We also don't understand nuclear power. Most of us don't. And so if you are participating in a technology that you don't understand, unfortunately, your lack of consciousness leads you into unconsciousness, and you become an automaton. And so when you say beings can inhabit you, oh yes, you can. Your phone, in many cases, telephones, smartphones, are controlling people's lives, period. They literally couldn't survive without them. And so who is the master of whom? So once you become an automaton, and it literally becomes your habit, it becomes your life, it becomes your religion, whether you know it or not, it then goes into the subconscious. And once it goes into the subconscious, and the collective unconscious starts to do the same thing that the collective programming of all those subroutines that then makes what appears to be magic appear on your smartphone. Imagine what's going on in the collective unconsciousness of humans who are becoming machines because they're becoming automated. They're becoming automatons. They're becoming machine language inside of human bodies. They don't even have to put the chips in us. They don't have to put the wires in us. We're doing it happily. So then the question is, how much evil is that really leading us to? And I think you can see around the world how fast things are going, whether it be Dragonfly and social credit systems in China, whether it be the myth or the prediction of Skynet controlling us all through satellites, whether it be Richard C. Walker's Internet of Things, aggressive remote control of all things, literally, even things that don't move, the things that are just stock, things that are, it doesn't matter, all things. And this is what they have laid out actually since the 40s. And what they planned to do is what? What is the plan? To make us all bow down to artificial intelligence, saying that the collective subroutines of all those humans who didn't do magic, they wrote very unmagical subroutines, which are very boring. I used to write them in the very early days. We see that, and we see the magic, and we don't deserve it because we don't have the gratitude. And so what's going to happen? If you don't have the gratitude for the effort of all those human beings and the almost magical technology that has put together these devices we use, then you are simply going to sink down into realms below the human realm. And I know John can address that. He's the first person in this group to say the word Ahriman. So he opened a bag of worms there, or a can of worms. So we may go back to that. But literally, how much evil is this? Michael, if it's not magic, is there an evil that is actually unconsciously undoing people by their association with these devices?
Well, there is a principle in management that makes the assumption that people perform to the ways they're managed, or to ways they're measured. Or in other words, you perform to get the kinds of results that you want. And so therefore, some managers develop compensation systems that will reward the behavior they're looking for and discourage the behavior they're not looking for. And I think we all know that. As kids, we were given candy when we did a good thing, and we weren't when we did something we shouldn't have done. And so as adults, the same things are occurring in our work. And so it seems like what technology does is give the ability to put out more of those management objectives more often. And so now we have a system like you described where those are happening constantly. We're getting rewarded. And so this social credit system is just another speed enhancement of those kinds of things. And what I find immoral people have done is they have said, okay, I can manage people all the time with this device, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. But my point at the beginning of this, when we started working on technologies, no, let's give this as a tool for people, human beings, so that they can enhance their creativity. What has occurred is the opposite of that, is the powers that be that stole this technology are using this measurement ability to oppress people. and to put them in digital boxes, and then to control their every move and their economy and their social interaction. And those are devilish. And so it seems that the spiritual forces that have been at play since we were created are at play now, and they're using the technology, but they're blaming the technology. And that seems to be maybe one of the things that we're describing here. They're misdirecting the spiritual forces here and investing an inanimate technology with these attributes. And so what we really need to be talking are about age-old spiritual forces at play in our world, and technology is now the latest excuse for misdirecting the attention, if that made sense.
It does make sense. Going back to the British author C.S. Lewis, he said the devil's greatest accomplishment was convincing humanity that he didn't exist.
Yes, I was thinking of that in the back of my head. Thank you very much.
I could feel that. And see, that becomes the challenge, because although some might think that I'm speaking in terms of fairy tales, well, that's fine. But basically, so much of what I see going on today reminds me of the Lord of the Rings, a member of C.S. Lewis's circle at Oxford. And it's quite fascinating because they were called the Inklings. And it included C.S. Lewis, who had been, he had recently been converted to Christianity from being agnostic. He became Anglican. And then there was Owen Barfield, who was an anthroposophist. He was an editor over at Faber and Faber, who published the Philokalia. And then there's also Charles Williams, who was a member of the Golden Dawn and into Hermetic studies. And then there was J.R.R. Tolkien, who was Catholic. And they once asked Tolkien, how can you people get together and sit around and discuss religions? You're all of different religions. And Tolkien said, it's not important that we agree as to what the answers are, but that we agree as to what the important questions are. And so that's where we are right now. Mm-hmm. It's like, how can we carry this forward so that we can ask the right questions? Because the tendency for people is they want closure. They go, what's the answer? And I fail continually, but I try to stay within the realm of the question. And that leads it into an open system. And as long as you have an open system, you can have new import or new information coming in. A fine example is the Latin language, which is very much like computer language, in that Latin is a dead language. There's no new words in Latin. So that Rudolf Steiner once described Latin as a language, it thinks in you. And that if you study philosophy in Latin, that your philosophical results will be determined by the rules of grammar. Okay? So you see where I'm going with this. If you go to computer language that is going to provide you answers, well, guess what? But the answers to these questions that you're asking are already scripted into the subroutines. And that's the danger, is that we have programming directing our thinking. Whereas initially it was thinking that created this program out of curiosity and doing interesting things. That's basically the mood of soul of a computer programmer. He wants to do an interesting project. And so, like Albert Einstein was working on his project, and then he didn't intend to create an atom bomb. That was nowhere in his mind. That just was the end game of the type of thinking that he used, you see. And so that's the kind of atom bomb effect of all these subroutines, is that if we don't rein this in and put humans back in charge of the human realm, we're going to enter into the dark gates of Mordor. We're going to be allowing subroutines that are echoes of past decisions that aren't even related to what we're trying to solve, other than through the rules of computer language, or what we might call computer grammar, you see? And so it's this realm of construct. That's where the realm of form takes over the realm of being. See? And that's, in a philosophical realm, that's where they're dealing with that, because in Platonic philosophy, you have the whole and the parts. And what is the relationship between the whole and the parts? See? And I know this might become a little abstract, but that's the thing. That's the nature of being, is that it is in a larger context than our present consciousness. See? And so what these computer programs are doing is they're reining us in, they're limiting us into realms of thinking that whoever is utilizing that for their own ends, can restrict us in our realm of thinking.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, I was speaking at the conference.
It's a filter.
In New York, and this comes to mind. And one of the speakers was this accountant, and the subject was the balanced scorecard, if you've ever heard of that. Yeah. And the balanced scorecard came out of the UK. And the idea is that you can have a dashboard of controls, like the controls in a car, to manage your whole organization. So executive information systems, there's always been this dream of having everything you needed to make decisions in one place. And the balanced scorecard in the 90s was the hot topic. And one of the accountants got up, I forget what auditing firm he was with, and he made a statement I'll never forget. He said, one day we will not need managers, because our dashboard will give us all the answers we need.
Yeah.
You see, now that is exactly what I'm talking about. Why would artificial intelligence be superior to human intelligence? Why would going faster be better than having more qualitative experience? Why would you think for 1 minute that a machine is better than a human, or that the combination of all those subroutines, just because they can handle more information, makes them better? It doesn't make them able to make proper decisions. And here is the fallacy. There's only one computer, actually two now, in the whole world that even claims to be artificial intelligence, and that's Alphabet owns Google, and they own a company that created the first artificial intelligence, which could play 5 board games at once against humans and win all 5 games. Well, that's okay. They thought that was good, but that's just more is better. That's just more information. That isn't what they were looking for. But then they created the second one called DeepMind 2. DeepMind 1, DeepMind 2. What did it do? It not only could play those games, it could play not to win. It could lose sometimes, so that as a strategy it could win later, and that it would teach itself as it was doing this what the human reaction would be to it losing, not always just winning. You see where this is going? Mm-hmm. And then DeepMind 2 started to write a language for itself to do this that was in a language that humans cannot interpret. And that is the moment that we cross the threshold. That's the moment that I have not been looking forward to, because I've said all along, until a machine can do that, until it can write a language that can actually be operative and do something that humans cannot understand, then it really isn't artificial intelligence. Now it is truly artificial. But who would want artificial? Would you want artificial food? How about the reasonable facsimile of an egg? Oh, well, how about just plastic food? It looks just like it. So why would anyone want anything artificial, especially to do with intelligence? Faster is not better. Artificial is not better. Machine is not superior to a human. And this is the problem, because we have now been programmed to believe that inanimate objects have been ensouled with human qualities. Machines do not think. Machines are not intelligent. Faster is not better. Millions of subroutines don't make the machine magic. This is what we're talking about. But unfortunately, robot warfare is here. We're not getting out of this until we confront the reality that we have to make a decision. What are we going to choose? Machine thinking or human thinking? And unfortunately, we have seen so many choices in education go towards having an iPad for every child. Recently, they found out after doing the studies, get rid of all iPads, all iPhones and computers in classrooms. They are causing intelligence to devolve. And that's what I'm saying. You will devolve as an automaton right into the realm of evil, where you will simply be doing what the machines tell you to do, so you get your social credit score, so that your bank account will still work, so your car will turn on when you want it to, so you can get a ride to some place with an Uber driver, or so they don't simply end your payroll check, because it's all going to be combined into one thing. Because until they do that, then the master God of the universe, the digital God of the universe, the ultimate AI, can't incarnate until we make sure that all of our life is controlled by our digital devices. And that's what John was making reference to, a being who literally is predicted from even ancient times, that in our modern times that this being would come to exist and live into these machines. And literally, the intent of this being is to make you cold-hearted and literally have no ability to think, and to turn you into an automaton where you have no freedom. And look around you, folks. We've written article after article showing you the illnesses that arise by using your smartphone, your iPad, your computers. The EMF bombardment, the 5G bombardment. We've shown you the evils of the digital cyber warfare kingdom that is attacking us. The question is, what are you going to do? You're going to be a Luddite, put your head like an ostrich in the sand and the ground? Or are you going to fight this? Are you going to say this is evil? Are you going to try to bring it to people's attention? Are you going to try to do what the future holds, which is absorb this evil and redeem it? I don't have any answers. And the smartest people I know don't have answers. But I know that we're headed in the same direction that most science fiction dystopias point at. First, there'll be a war with our robots, then there'll be a war with our cyborgs, and then humans will basically be outlawed and there will be no freedom. Well, this has been predicted so many times, and what do? We rush forward to accept whatever technology advancements there are, because why? The machines predicate it.
Do you want to... I'll share with you one conversation I had with Professor Jim Chandler. We got on this subject. We got on this subject, and the subject was
the third.
If a human being can invent something, should that person not invent because it's morally not right? That was the thesis. His position was that it's not up to that person to decide. Let the technology result decide. And so he was saying, if it can be invented, it should, even if it's immoral.
And that's basically very similar to what I had just said. Is that it thinks in you.
Yeah.
And see, you'll get that you have these people, the technologists. That's their religion. They really believe that the technology is the highest God in the universe.
That's the Highlands group, by the way.
Yeah, that's the Highlands group. Highlands Forum.
Science is a new mythology. There's almost no theory that has lasted more than 100 years. And now that they are looking out further into space, everything we know, from gravity to light to warmth, sound, light, anything you want to mention, they're finding that they're just babes in the woods. So we are deeply, deeply into the mechanical control of the human being and taking over their freedom. The question is it too late? That's the question that the anthroposophists, the people that I study and that John studies, and that's what they're studying right now. Is it too late? Do we just need to run away, or we need to be back to landers and just get out? We need to throw our cell phones in the pond? Do we need to have what are they called? Build the, put on your aluminum foil hat or your Faraday cage, or I think John and I have had talks where we've said what you can do to counteract 5G, what you can do to counteract electromagnetic frequency bombardment of your body. But when it really comes down to it, what I'm going to point at is it has nothing to do with technology. I was deep in technology when I was young, and I got out because I understood consciousness. That's what it's about. It's not about technology. And technology will come and go. And one large coronal mass ejection from the sun, and your devices won't work anymore, and you'll have to go back to using a pencil and a piece of paper and trying to remember your times tables because they don't teach them in school anymore because the machines do all the work for us. So the question is, gentlemen, are we going to be able to confront this evil? You are confronting it every day for the last 20 years, fighting the people who took what was supposed to be a bastion of freedom of information, and it was turned into a weaponized form of social control.
Right.
Are we going to be able to win this battle? That's the question people ask.
This is exactly where we're supposed to be. This is the challenge that we are to face. If you get into a subject that I covered, just touched upon the other day in a conversation with Leo Zagami, I said that within the mystery wisdom, there's what's called what Blavatsky called the 7 unutterable secrets, and Rudolf Steiner referred to them as the 7 great mysteries. And the 5th great mystery is the mystery of evil. And if you go into the lore, you'll find that Moria had said that if you understand how a leaf leaves an impression in mud that turns to stone, the secret of the whole 5th mystery is revealed. So you have that whole idea of what is the end result of human activity, and are we to let this end game be that which controls us and determines how we engage in human activity, or are we to keep an open system to where that becomes a tool that one can use or set aside at will? And the danger I'm seeing with technology today is it's so overwhelming that people have become compartmentalized, and they're in these bubbles, these technological bubbles. Mm-hmm. And so they're limited, and their vocabulary is getting smaller and smaller, and people are thinking in memes, and they can't even come up with a whole paragraph explaining why they feel that way. They just have some buzzword or short phrase that's a symbol that represents a feeling. It's really kind of strange. Like it's like being surrounded by a bunch of apparitions or ghosts, because these people are not inhabiting their thinking. Mm-hmm. They're not really participating in it. They're becoming, like it's frequently even said in the media, they're an echo chamber, that they're just regurgitating things that they saw on cable TV news or whatever, and that there's no real thinking process. And when you get into what's happened to our education system, it has been biased that way since the 30s through the introduction of the influence of the neo-Marxists and that whole school of Frankfurt. So there's really a large historical context in which this is occurring. And in my mind, it makes me wonder, why would somebody want to do that? Mm-hmm. Is it because that's all they're capable of? Is it because, see, you could study the mineral realm, and you can come up with very precise rules. You know, this particular metal burns at this temperature, and its tensile strength is everything. It can be calibrated very easily. But the type of thinking that you can use in that mineral realm, even if you just lift up one realm to the realm of plants, it doesn't work. I mean, a guy who is so knowledgeable all that, I'd love to have him explain to me how water gets to the top of a tree, for example. Which defies all the supposedly known rules of gravity, and they'll start talking capillary action. Well, I've done tests with capillary action, and it's good to get the water to go up about 5 inches. Okay, so it gets a little complex, and I don't want to start talking in things where people can't follow us. But I think what I want to say is, don't allow yourself to be encaged with these things. And the whole key to it, to me, is the word self-reference. As long as you have self-reference before this, you do not run the risk as greatly of losing your soul in the encounter.
Absolutely. And you've said it so right, because the words or philosophical ideas have been so watered down that they don't mean anything anymore. So much so to the point that we have seen literally the death of the word, the death of the power of the word, so that we have fake news. So the news that's supposed to be giving us the truth gives us nothing but lies. Well, that's okay. We're in the post-truth age. We're in the, literally politically, that is what they want it to be, because then everyone's in chaos and no one knows what's true. And it's the death of thinking, and we've seen that, whether it be fluoridization of your pineal gland, fluoride in your pineal gland, whether it be bad food or whatever. Human thinking is basically waning, and human freedom is almost extinguished. Even here in America, supposedly the bastion of freedom, most people are just automatons. They're robots. They just simply go to work and they tell the computer what the computer needs to hear. And what is all that? That's anti-humanism. And so, you have transhumanism, that people think they're going to go beyond the human, adding chips to the brain or becoming cyborgs. Complete nonsense. You will become subhuman. You will actually no longer be a human. You will leave the human realm. And what leads us into the anti-human realm is false images, where words mean different things than they really are. And then once you begin to accept them, that's the way you think it is. For instance, how many times have we heard that the head is a computer? It's not a computer. Nothing close to being a computer. And anyway, we don't do our thinking in the head anyway. And then we're told that the heart's a pump. It's not a pump. John can explain in great detail what it really is. But the point is, using mechanical references for human, almost divine activities, human thinking is cosmically divine. And the human heart is beating at a resonance that is the same resonance found throughout the entire universe. So when it comes down to it, what we really are doing with machines is going away from humans into anti-humans. And humans, you have to ask yourself the question, what is the ultimate goal of a human? Is it to be an animal or an angel? Or you want to just remain a human? It's up to you. But really, that's what it comes down to. And when you start saying that a human is a machine, or a human takes on machine characteristics, you've just devolved into the realm that exists in between the mineral realm and the realm of plants.
It's profane.
It is profane. It's grotesque. And there's a guy, a friend of ours, William Rowan Thompson, who says the Americanization of nature comes down to the fact that education in America has been replaced by entertainment. And now that's been replaced literally by your iPhone, so that your entertainment comes to your iPhone. Religion has been replaced by shopping and consumerism. That's what your iPhone is there to do, is make you into a consumer, period. They don't care about your life or anything else. They just want you to do what they want, which is to buy with your cash that you have flowing through you what they want. And then your human activity, it has been degraded to such a point that we in America, we've thrown away nature for Disney World, so that we must be on a ride at all times. A ride where we're just sitting there, we're entertained, whether it be on our phone or computer or iPad or television, doesn't matter. But we are not going to do anything, and we're not going to communicate with human beings. We're simply going to be on that ride. It's called the Walt Disneyfication of the world. And that is where we're headed, as long as we're going to replace human concepts with machine concepts, and they don't belong there. We are beings of the cosmos. We're not beings of below the earth. We pull the minerals up out of the earth. And then we add electromagnetism to them, right? Well, that's when it starts to get weird. And we could go into great detail showing you how people get possessed by their machines because they're electric. They're electromagnetic. And because they don't have a clue what electricity is, electromagnetism, or how the machine was created, or the subroutines, and that they have been devolved into being basically a human robot, they don't know what question to ask, exactly as John said. They're like the Grail Knight who sees all this stuff going on and doesn't ask any questions. If you're not going to ask any questions, I can tell you exactly where you're headed to being an animal. And that animal will be an animal that uses tools that are in between the mineral kingdom and the plant kingdom. And that's what computers are. Take a close look. But where does electromagnetism come from? Does it just come out of the sky? Is anyone going to ask any questions about electrostatic energy, electromagnetic energy? Where it comes from, where it goes? No one asks any of these questions. Oh, what if it's coming from the core of the earth, from demons who are trying to pull you down into the core of the earth? Think about that for a moment.
Well,
you just blew my mind.
William Irwin Thompson. Yeah, how about him? Yeah, he once said, yes, the hothouse flowers of academia. And we don't want to devolve into that, to where we speak in contexts that the ordinary person can't approach. But nonetheless, in the book, The Americanization of Nature, he makes the very salient point that they're attempting to turn modern-day world into Epcot Center, to where everything is entirely orchestrated.
Well, I don't know why Dostoevsky came to mind, and the brothers Karamazov, and the idea of free will. It seems that man's free will is the issue here, and what technology, if it's going to be a useful tool, has got to enhance our free will.
Yes.
And what's going on right now is what you're describing, which is the opposite. It's taking that free will away, and that is the definition of evil. And what it seems to me, that's the standard for how technology is used going forward. If it enhances our ability to have free will, then it's a good thing. If it's taking that free will away, then that's the definition of the devil.
Well, yeah, and again, that's that thing, that point that I keep making. It thinks in you. Mm-hmm. If you're allowing these devices to circumscribe the limits of what you are going to think in your freedom dwells in your thinking.
Yeah.
Or it should.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't happen automatically.
Right.
It's an attainment to be able to take yourself into the realm to where thinking can think about thinking itself, mm-hmm. right? When you get to the realm of what Rudolf Steiner described as sense-free thinking, then you can become an observer of the actual process itself, and detach yourself from being so limited by the echoes of your sense impressions. And that's the very important thing, because what we're doing right now with computers is we're overwhelming our sensory apparatus mm-hmm. with data, most of which, 99.99% of which we are absolutely unaware of.
It's the dopamine hit.
Yeah, we're taking a little titillation, and meanwhile, there's literally, like he said, millions of people behind all these subroutines. The whole history is behind what you're experiencing. And I used to have that experience in my car. I'd be driving my car and I'd be thinking, there's a guy that screwed on that knob over there. There's a guy who designed that knob. There's a guy who formed the plastic. And you just, by the time you get done, it's like you're surrounded by all these people. Mm-hmm. But there's the ghost isn't in the machine.
Do you send them a thank you note?
It's an
Each
echo.
one of those.
It's an echo from the past
Thank them.
that's meeting you. See,
And that's what
these-
Douglas is saying. Thank them.
Yeah, it's these subroutines and this technology
Right.
going all the way back to the woman who wrote the first computer language.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to have an attitude of gratitude for these tools.
I never
which
thought
is-
about that, but that's absolutely right.
Yeah. And so that will give you self-reference in relationship to
Gives
what
you a humility as well.
Oh, absolutely,
No,
'cause
this isn't you.
people have given their lives to
Right.
develop all these routines and subroutines and all these various developments. But when you get into and you try to have a self-reference in relationship before that, in humility, in recognition of the great gift that
Right.
it can bring you, because it's like the old man in the sea, right? The old story, or Aladdin and his lamp. You know, it depends on what you do with it. You know, it's like when Alice gets to the caterpillar, the hookah smoking caterpillar. She asks him, "Where do I go?" He says, "Well, where do you want to get to?" And she says, "Well, I don't really know." And he says, "Well, then it doesn't really matter, does it?" You know, so our freedom is based upon having a trajectory, and that trajectory, in my mind, is human, purely human. It's not about what we used to describe 40 years ago in the monastic club as subnature techniques.
Oh, yes. Hopefully we won't get too far into all of
What
that.
did you just say? Subnature techniques?
Yes.
Is that like a toy?
It's a
That
toy.
sounds like
Yes, it's a
techniques.
toy of the demons against
That's not-
humans.
that's a
Well,
German-
we were attempting to come at the time. It was so early in the game. This, mind you, is 40 years ago. Is how do we address? We were trying to digest this thing that we felt coming on, that I'd felt coming on
Really?
because of vertical dreams since a small child, and so consequently, I was tested very high aptitude for engineering. My family's company had advanced engineering equipment and all that, and I wanted nothing to do with it because I sensed that there was something about it that was unwholesome, and because it was so limiting on the human spirit. It has the potential to liberate the human spirit because you go, okay, because I have this device over here, it can be used for certain tasks. That frees me up so that I can involve myself with other tasks. But what people are doing is the opposite.
Right.
They're making that the focus of their life. And I see these people every day and they're staring into their phone. It's like, it's literally sucking the life, which is counted in heartbeats. It's sucking the life right out of them. And so what can we do to get people to the point to where they'd rather look at a flower than a digital image of a flower?
Well, the problem is that we don't have the true icons to lead us into the future that could show us the reality. And the reality is electromagnetism is a theory of science, and science is a myth, like all other myths, which will fade and will be replaced. And so when we talk about electromagnetism, speaking in terms that John was making reference to, we should talk about fallen light. Light that pervades the whole cosmos. Imagine it falls down to Earth, it's magnetized in this field, and then we use it as a slave, just as John was saying. We use these devices as slaves, and just as Michael was saying, are you thankful? Are you grateful? Did you thank anybody? We have all these slaves working for us, but we don't thank anybody. You know what that makes us? Hubris, hollow, hypocritical, demagogues. Now, it's okay, because we are demagogues, because the phone and your iPad and your computer makes you think that you're omniscient. Because why? I can look up anything I want and get the answer within seconds. Any professor in any university is no smarter than I am at my phone, because I might look up something that the professor missed and get the most current information. So I'm omniscient. It's in my hand. I don't ever thank anybody for the fact that I have more knowledge than the Library of Congress in my hand. And it makes me omnipresent. Through these broadcasts, in a few minutes, we're going to reach people and our friends all over the world. Some friends in Australia. I'd like to say hi to Liz. I'd like to say hi to Michael. I'd like to say, okay, so I can contact all these people instantaneously, one broadcast.
Hi, Susan in England.
Hi, Nancy. Hi, Barbara. Hi, everybody. Okay, so we're omnipresent, right? Well, how did that work? I don't have a clue what a PDF or a HMTL or whatever the heck those things are. But by gosh, I can sure send out my words to everybody I want. And then I'm omnipotent. You know why I'm omnipotent? Because I can get my phone to do anything I want through the Internet of Things. I can get it to start my car on a warm day before I go out there. I can get it to answer the doorbell and let the mailman in the house and open up a certain door and then make him some coffee and make him some toast while he's there while I'm at work. Okay? I can do any dadgum thing I want if I'm smart enough to use these machines. So your thinking has been transplanted by the nonsense that you're mechanically omniscient. Your feeling has been completely transplanted by the fact that you think you can reach out to everybody all over the world. They're not your friends, by the way, necessarily. And so it transplants your feelings. And then you're omnipotent. No, you're not. You're not omnipotent at all, because those things are all temporary. They all pass. You need to work on things that are eternal, like love and grace and mercy and all those kind of things. So my point is, machines lie. They tell you you're omniscient, you're omnipresent, you're omnipotent. Those are all lies. What you're really doing is you're taking the light of the cosmos and you're bringing it into your electromagnetic devices and you're enslaving them. And if you don't thank them, how much trouble could you be in knowing that light comes from beings above you? You know, whether you want to call them angels or whatever you want to call them, devas or whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is that light, it's selfless. It pervades everything. Think of it. Think about light. Plus, light comes with warmth and sound, and it comes with magnetism from the sun. So there's no such thing as light on its own. But we take light and we torture it. And we basically, as Goethe said, color is light that has been tortured. I'm misquoting that, but
color is the deeds and sufferings of light.
Of light, exactly. And so that's what we're doing. We're taking it, and instead of the beautiful rainbow, we're turning it into the rainbow colors on the screen of your smartphone. And nobody's thanking anybody, not the subroutine writers, not the people who made the machine, not the Chinese people who are chained to the tables making the components for the microchips No, we're not thanking anybody, because we want the new iPhone because it goes faster. Because why? I believe that nonsense that I'm omniscient, I'm omnipresent, and I'm omnipotent. And when you look at your children, that's why they're ill, that's why they're depressed, that's why there's so much suicide, and it's an illness that can't even be described. There's never been anything like this plague in human history.
Well, then you could see in the movie, the little girl comes before the TV set, and the hand reaches out of the TV set towards her, and she goes, "They're here."
Poltergeist. We helped inspire Spielberg.
Yeah,
Remember, Kathleen Kennedy got that idea from us. We told Spielberg, if you want to get something across, let people know that it is the dead human beings who run their TVs. And if you're not thankful for them, well, look at Elvis Presley. How many times is he going to sing that song for you? He's dead. But he keeps on singing the song for you, doesn't he? So the dead are running your TV, and that's where he got that idea. And he said, literally, the quote was, can you give me something that out of Rudolf Steiner that would talk about poltergeists? And I said, oh yes, there's a lecture on spiritism, somnambulism, and hypnotism. Yeah. And that's the very lecture that he refers to when he was on television saying where the inspiration came from for poltergeist.
Yeah, because the way to encapsulate it is electricity is the will force of the dead. Okay? And if you want to take it in the context of what we were just saying, you have all these beings that invented all these devices, and because of the capacities of electricity, you are able to utilize the thinking of the centuries gone past that has consolidated over the centuries into all these devices. And so you're you should be grateful to all these inventors that came up with all these little pieces to this puzzle that we now call modern technology, because it's essentially their will force that you're acting upon when you utilize these technologies. But in a deeper sense, the actual electricity itself is a counter image of something higher. See, it's fallen light. It's not the highest expression of light. You see, and what in the gospel it says God is light. Well, they're not saying that God is what's coming out of your smartphone. That's a different thing. That's fallen.
It's a different light.
Just so you know the difference. I don't want to confuse you.
It's very funny.
I don't want to come in here and see you bowing in front of that laptop.
Well, I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful to you, Michael, and to Leader Technology for giving us the ability to reach the whole world instantaneously. And I'm also thankful for many things about you, but that's the reason I'm going to give you the final word on this.
It's funny. At the trial, the Facebook Leader v. Facebook trial, Facebook's very corrupt attorney asked me a question, and he said, "Did you invent the internet?"
Al Gore invented
Al Gore
the internet.
did, of course.
My co-inventor actually said that at the trial. No, it was Al Gore. But that's how arrogant these people are. They truly think they are in control.
But you didn't build that company.
That's right, I did not. It was Obama. Okay. But the bottom line is these people have convinced themselves that they're in control of whatever it is that they grabbed.
And that's just it. And that's the insertion of legalism, which again in our future dialogue we'll get into the legalistic side of this issue, because what happens is when you involve lawyers and accountants, if you let them manage your things long enough, they'll think it's theirs.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
It's real simple, folks. We always give you a solution. The solution is gratitude. Gratitude is as powerful as the force of love. And if you are thankful for all of these things, then you're going to be thankful because you understand them. And if you understand them, then you're going to be able to use them properly and wisely. And that is the answer to all of these digital questions in our modern technological age. What comes out of your heart is more powerful than anything else in the cosmos.
Amen.
And love and
Preach it,
gratitude and all
Preach it, brother.
Amen.
You can't
Maintain
nothing can compare.
attitude of gratitude.
The attitude of gratitude. All right, thank you so much. So AI, all I have to say to you is